Hey business besties, welcome back to the Female Founder World podcast. I'm Jasmine. I'm the host of the show and the creator of the Female Founder World universe. Today I am in Sydney, Australia, and I'm talking to Sandy Ronalds, the founder of Nat'V Basics. She started this business just a few years ago and she has sold more than $8 million worth of product. She sold over 1.1 million pairs of underwear, which is pretty impressive stuff. And we're going to go through her story and how she's been doing that.
You are now entering Female Founder World with your host, Jasmine Garnsworthy.
Sandy, welcome to Female Founder World.
Thank you for having me.
For people who don't know Nat'V Basics, what are you guys creating over there?
Currently, or from the launch and start, we really just wanted to create sustainable basics that were for the everyday lady, that were comfortable, better for people and the planet, and we've sort of evolved from there.
I love hearing people who are coming into categories that you would think are like pretty crowded, same as beauty. All these people launching beauty brands in the last 3 years and they're doing so well. Again, you launched into a category that you're not the first person doing this, but it's really worked. What do you think it is that people are like buying into about the story or about the product?
Yeah, I think we've got a really strong why and purpose behind the brand. When I first launched the product or even had the idea, I didn't really just want to launch another underwear brand because, as you have just mentioned, there are just so many underwear brands on the market. They've all been very old legacy brands, very well established, but I feel they sort of get stuck in their old sort of ways of doing things and really had the market and didn't really need to diversify in any way or change what they were doing. So it was quite easy for us to, not easy, very hard work, but it was easy for us to find a niche within the market to come in and be a bit of a disruptor from the start.
What were you doing when you came up with this idea, and what was that process of like bringing it to market? Did you launch in 2019? Is that right? 2020?
Yeah, I launched in 2019 on my daughter's birthday, which is Halloween.
Okay.
So I sort of just wanted to relate it back to her just because I feel like I also created the brand to make her future better and all of our children's futures better in some sort of way, hopefully.
Love this. Yeah.
So yeah, that's when we launched.
Okay, amazing. What was the process between coming up with the idea and getting this thing out into the world?
The process. It was a long process. It wasn't an easy just, click the fingers and
it took a couple of years, right?
It did.
Yeah.
So the first initial idea was back in 2017 and it just sort of popped into my head because I was scrolling myself and trying to find something that was that I was looking for, and I just couldn't really find that. So from there it sort of popped into my head. I sat on it for about a year because you always have that inner demon that sits on that shoulder and says, no, you can't do this.
Totally.
And as you said, there's so many brands on the market, and sort of that does make you feel worried and puts doubt. But then I sort of thought, you know what, I'd be proud of myself just to have a go and do it and fail rather than do nothing at all.
Yeah.
So from there, I started planning about a year and a half out before launch. A lot of research and development went into the product. But then once I was happy with the product, then I really focused on all the marketing and pre-marketing hype and getting everything up and running before launch.
Okay, we're definitely going to talk about the launch marketing in a second, but what you said about that like devil on the shoulder, also often that's actually just a real person with a voice in the world that can be telling you that. I remember when I was probably 19, I was really young and I wanted to start an activewear brand, and I remember telling a friend and she was like, oh, it would have to be really good for me not to buy, I think it was like Lorna Jane that we were all buying in Australia at the time. It would be really good for me not to buy Lorna Jane. And I was like, yeah, that's true. There's already like someone there.
Yeah.
And that was 10 years ago.
You are so right. So even people within my family who are my biggest supporters no matter what, they also said that. They said underwear, you can just go to Target or bras and things. And, I can rattle off a whole bunch of, brands that are available in Australia. And obviously that didn't help. But I was very lucky to have a very supportive dad and my husband. They'll just like, just do it. You'll be great. And like, make sure you plan. Like obviously amazing. Don't just go into it blindly. Have a plan, have a strategy of how you're going to do it, but don't not do it because of those reasons.
Yeah.
So,
it's always good to have just at least one of those people who can be in your corner and tell you that it's possible, because it's totally possible. I've spoken to hundreds of people from all different backgrounds who have done it. So whoever's listening, you can do it too.
Absolutely.
I want to understand what your launch marketing plan was. You had a pretty strong launch. What were you doing to kind of get that momentum and get that buzz right at the beginning?
Well, obviously, quite a while before we even launched, I had done a little bit of a business plan, and then that leaks over into a marketing plan and strategy around that. So I really had a strong purpose and why of why we were doing that. So
I love a planner. Lots of people just go into this without a plan, myself included, but we love to hear that some people have strategy.
Well, sometimes like strategy can come naturally, and I think people get a little bit overwhelmed when you say plan. Like, I'm not writing a 20-page document with a lot of words. It really is just boom, boom, boom. What are the points? What are the benefits? I don't need to write an essay like I'm delivering it to some professor at uni. It's like, really, what are the key points for me and my little business right now? So I was really strong on really making sure our purpose and our why, once again, was strong and made sense for what we were doing. And from there, I created a promo plan and advertising around that. So about 2 months out, we had the website up and running. We were obviously collecting as many emails as we possibly could for launch, and obviously doing a little deal around that, because I think growing your database as quickly as you can is a huge asset. It's pretty much one of the best things to own in a company, essentially. And so by the time we hit launch, we already had thousands of people on our actual database, and we were very lucky to also have an influencer strategy, a little one, not a big one, in place, where I think the day after we launched, we had a well-known influencer from Byron Bay, which sort of fit our market right then and there, because, you know, we're a little bit more sustainable. We are much more sustainable than the average product. And that demographic and people that were following that influence at that time sort of really matched well, and sort of got it out from there.
And so the influencer piece actually is like working quite well for you, because I do hear a lot of people, it's like quite hit and miss depending on who you work with.
Yeah, it can be. And I think we still have hit and misses as well.
Yeah.
You really got to find the right influencers that align with your brand, and really track whatever it is that you want out of the relationship. I have sort of mentioned, you know, to friends and other people that are in business that I love working with micro influencers. I think they're great, they're up and coming, but we will happily work with them, and it's more to generate content, because they can be great content generators. But if we are working with the more expensive influencers, we definitely want to see a return on investment, brand awareness, and conversions. So
how do you like manage those influencer campaigns? Like, is it a matter of someone on the team is sending a DM to somebody, and then you have like an Excel spreadsheet where you track it? Like, I'm just really curious about like the specifics of how someone does that. So
what we have a lot of people reach out to us, which is fantastic. It means that they've found us and they find that we align with what they're doing, which we love. But if we're also looking in the market and we're on Instagram ourselves, we will actively, first of all, we don't really, it does matter about the following, but it really doesn't. It's more about the engagement and how much influence that influencer actually has on their audience. Because you might find someone that has 500,000 followers, they will be more expensive, but when you actually use them, they'll convert far less, because their audience just isn't engaged. So when looking at those influencers, don't worry about the followers. Really drill down, look at a post, look at the likes, and then also check the comments. Make sure there's not a lot of spammy ones, because they could have bought the followers and the comments, which you can do, and you can easily tell. And then also just be wary. So if you've got a young lady that is gorgeous, but, you know, is might have more of a male following. So if we get her to post and she's got a predominantly male audience, it's just not going to work.
It's not going to convert.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That is such a, especially for you in the category that you're in, I'm sure that's something that you actually really have to think about a lot.
We do. Yeah. And going back to how you asked how we track it, at the moment we're so simple. We just have it in an Excel spreadsheet. We have each month. We will have our budget that comes across from our cash flow projections. We'll pop that in. We'll then start putting in our influencers. They're usually pre-planned out, you know, at least a quarter in advance.
Okay.
And so we'll have the name of the influencer and handle. We'll put how much they're actually, what their fee is.
Yeah.
And then after the campaign, we'll go in and we'll drill down on the analytics, and we'll see what the return on investment is, and put them there and work out what that is.
And you give them like a discount code or something so that you can track who's shopping through them?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's the quickest and easiest way to, you know, track what they're doing, and you sort of really want to know what they're bringing in. You can also these days really request their sticker taps and their analytics.
Yeah, give me a screenshot.
Yeah.
We spoke live a couple of nights ago. You know, I'm coming towards the end of our Australia tour at the moment, where we're celebrating Australian businesses, and you were an amazing guest.
Thank you.
Speaking to the business besties in Brizzy. And one of the questions that we had from the audience was around when you knew to make that move from, you're building the business like in your parents' spare room and then going into your own kind of facility and what that process was like. I'd love to know what triggered that and how people can know when they're ready to make that very scary decision.
It is a pretty scary decision. There was no real analytical sort of equation that I can share right now on that matter. It was simply I could not stay in my mum and dad's 2 bedrooms anymore. We were getting too big.
Yeah.
And we really just had to, they had to kick us out because there was no space. So
you were evicted.
Yeah.
The
Mum
moral
and Dad
of the
had
story.
to kick me out because I was taking over their whole entire house and it's like a 3-story home. So it was a lot. So that was like the main move. But at the moment, our factory that we currently operate out of is actually too small and has been for a few years. And I do have like the next goal where we have to be doing at least over probably like 5.5 mil revenue in 1 year to make that switch. That's sort of like the trigger now.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
Yeah.
Good to know. Something else that I'm really curious about with you, you are not like taking a big salary from the business. You're not driving towards profitability. Your goal is growth, but you're still bootstrapped, right? You own 100% of the company.
I do. So I own 100% and we have no external investors. All of the investment from the company has been from myself.
Okay. Learnings, why are you doing this? Like, what's the benefit? I'm sure it's also very challenging.
To be honest, this is an area that I don't have very much I don't have any expertise in it. I've never dealt with investors or venture capitalists in my life, and that's probably why we have never gone down that road yet. I don't even know what to say to them or even how to get in contact. And from what I hear, it can be a tough market for us women in the venture capital space. So it's something that I just thought, you know what, I'm just going to do all the hard work and do it myself.
Yep.
And I've got a bit of a 5-year strategy to get everything, all my ducks in line.
Yep.
For any opportunity that comes around in about 5 years, whether it be a great investor to come on and help me take it from, the 5 mil mark a year right up to maybe 20 mil a year would be amazing goals. Or for someone to come in and buy it if it aligns with what they want to do. So,
how about building a team? Who's working on this with you now?
So currently I do have a team of about 6 people. They really aren't working on this high level sort of strategy though, because it is. So I do have external sources to help. I'm currently trying to find and source an accountant that will check my company structure because obviously that's really, really important when you go to sell, and it will play a lot into how much tax you do or do not pay.
Yeah.
So that's obviously first and foremost. I'm creating an IP register at the moment. So what people wouldn't realise, which I didn't even until recently, is yes, I did have my trademark for Nat'V and I do own it in Australia, New Zealand and America. But if you get a logo done and it's done by a graphic designer outside of your company, they own that right until they sign it over to you. So you have to make sure that so what I've done is create an Excel spreadsheet, and I'm starting to get together all the things that when I go to sell, what makes a company actually worth something. And so that does include logos, URLs, Instagram handles, your database, obviously all your trademarks, all the design specs, patents, the list goes on and on and on. So IP just isn't that trademark. It's like pretty much everything that you are going to sell at some point that you actually own, and you have to make sure that you actually do own it when it comes time to sell.
That's so interesting and so important to mention because it's not just about how much money you make.
No. I mean, obviously that plays a key role, but you actually have to own your brand in every way.
Yes.
Including logos and all the graphics and
Is there anything else on that list? I feel like we should actually have this list published somewhere for people and speak to it.
It's actually a huge area in itself. I'm part of a board group, and we had a special speaker come in just last Friday, and he did an hour talk on it. And it is just insane how much there is to do and to build and to make sure that you've got everything lined up perfectly. And again, I'm no expert, so I'm learning as I go.
Yeah.
But these are the 2 things that I'm starting with because I feel like they're the most important. But yeah, it's actually someone that you can hire to help with this sort of thing if you get to that sort of stage. So
What about retail and wholesale? Is that a big piece of the business, or are you guys focused on e-com?
retail, we have never looked at bricks and mortar as of yet, and our range is just simply too small. Like to hire a whole shop, like it'd be half empty. So it just wouldn't make sense. Wholesale, we have stocked on the Iconic before, but that just wasn't working for us at that time.
Which is the big online, it's like the biggest online fashion retailer in Australia, I would say.
It is, absolutely. Yeah. And it is a great platform, but it just wasn't working for us at that time. I would love to more so get like a distributor, maybe overseas, because one of the biggest problems living in Australia, as everyone's aware, we're an island in the middle of nowhere, essentially. So
Australia is far.
It
is far.
So
I just did the flight. I can tell you it's far.
To ship anything, it's just more expensive. The customer has to wait longer times, especially when we ship to the US. And we do quite a bit because we do have some influencers like Chloe Fisher, who, obviously has a bit of a following over there, and a few others. So we do ship over there, but, it just isn't as good as what it could be. So I'm not sure if it's the right way to go, but on one of my opportunities in my SWOT analysis is definitely like outside, like international distributors that can take care of the brand in that area.
How do you think about like up-leveling and growing yourself as the person who's driving this business forward? Like, what are some things that have been helping you, or just how have you done that over the last few years as the business has grown like quite quickly?
As in professional development?
Yeah, like professional development, as, you're showing up, like leading a team now, and I think as the business grows, like this, what's required of you grows as well.
It does. It can be tough, and I'm not going to sit around and pretend like everything is like, it might look very polished from the outside, but I feel like I'm in the trenches of war every day. So it might look beautiful, but if you come into the office every day, it's just hard work. My team are amazing. Obviously, they're a small team, so they're great at what they do. We're very nimble and can change, whatever we have to do at any time. We don't have like a big level of, red tape going on and levels of management. But I also, use a lot of the tools that we have. So if you use Shopify, there's lots of learnings on there. All the apps that plug into those these days have got all their own learnings that you can go and read up on. Part of groups like yourself and a few others. And also I'm part of a professional board now where we meet once a month, and that's probably been the biggest help at the moment of where I'm at. It's not something that I could have afforded when I first started, but I'm sort of getting to that stage now where you sort of need high-level thinkers giving you what they think. And you can take and leave what you want, but it's always good to open your mind to every idea, because no idea is a stupid idea. And you take what you want and leave what you don't think will work.
How does that work when you join something like that? So is it you like pay to join? And
Yes. So there's a huge one in the world. I think it's called YPOs. So my chairman, Philip DeBella, he is actually part of that, but he chairs ours, and he was like the coffee king of Brisbane. So he's very high level thinker, good at strategy, and he runs our board. So it's good having him on the team. But then we have a whole bunch of different business owners that are on the actual board, and we all share ideas where we're at. We tell, we're not shamed at all. So we say how it is. No sugarcoating anything. And it's great because you get real-time feedback, real-life feedback. You're not reading a textbook. Do you know what I mean? So it's good to have that. And then you are kept accountable because you're meeting every month. So they know what you said last time. And then, which is great for a business owner. Because we love to procrastinate, right? If something gets too difficult, it's like, I'll do that later. But then, you'll get 6 months down the line and you still haven't done that thing that's super important. Because you're just like too hard basket.
Totally.
Yeah, so.
Relatable, I get it. The last thing I want to ask you is for a resource recommendation, something that you think other people who want to build something like what you're building, do what you're doing, that can go and check out right now.
Oh, this one is a hard one. I do struggle with this because I use so many different resources. So it's really hard for me just to give one sort of thing.
Give us a few. Feel free to shop, like Shopify apps, habits that you have, anything that's really been helping you.
Okay. Shopify apps, Triple L, I think I mentioned the other night when we met and we spoke. is great for analytical
Yep.
data and breaking it up, so you can actually see where the sales coming from on your, e-com site. As mentioned that night, Google will always say that they got it, and then Facebook will say they got the same sale, and then
Yes,
Instagram.
everyone
and then
claims it.
Everyone claims it. It's really hard to tell.
Yeah.
So that also makes it hard to sort of budget your money and know where to spend it. So that one's a good one to have. It is a little bit expensive, but, can you put a price on real life data?
Yeah.
It's important. We use Yotpo at the moment and have just transferred over to them for everything. What I love about them is they're an up and coming, and they're huge now. Like, they're not even up and coming, they're everywhere, but they've just put on emails. So I've moved from Klaviyo over to them. They're much cheaper.
Interesting.
Yeah. Much cheaper, and you get a full-time account manager. So I can, if I've got a problem with one of the things, so at the moment I'm using SMS.
Yeah.
I use their EDM platform. We've got subscriptions with them. They do user-generated content, and they also do reviews.
Yes, because they used to just be reviews.
So now they do it all, and it's
Okay.
much cheaper. And it's also, if you've got any issues, you can literally talk to someone in real time. So
Awesome.
I think the guy that I call, Thomas, he lives in Sydney. I'll just pick him up on the phone and be, hey, I've got this problem, and they'll
Yeah.
fix it.
Yeah.
I find sometimes when you're dealing a lot with the apps, really hard to get support. Sometimes you can
Yeah.
speak to the chat, but then it'll take 24 hours to get
Yes.
back. And sometimes you need it
Yes.
fixed now.
Yeah. It's like, this is impacting sales today. Can
Yeah.
someone please get onto
My
this?
customers are unhappy now,
Yeah.
and so am I. I
Yeah.
need it fixed now.
Yes,
Yeah.
100%.
So that one's a good one. When I travel, I love the app TripIt. I like to do a lot of travel in my spare time. You just literally email your plans to it, and it puts it in an app in order. So you just email the itinerary from, say, your flights. We'll stick it in the app, and it will tell you in order what you're meant to do on your trip.
Oh, amazing.
And you don't have to
That's
pay
so
for
good.
it. Yeah, so you've got the flight numbers, what time, everything.
Okay,
I'll show you
amazing. I
after.
need that for my travel home.
Yeah, so I love that. But yeah, there's so many. So,
Okay, amazing. Well, thank you so much, Sandy. It's been awesome to hear about what you guys are building at Nat'V Basics, and so impressed. So
Oh,
impressed.
thank you. Thanks for having me.
Of course.
Thank you.
Quick shout out to all of our Business Bestie subscribers. If you are loving this show and you are building a consumer, CPG, or e-commerce business, or you're about to build one, this membership will give you access to the people, experiences, and the tools that you really need to build your dream business. Head to femalefounderworld.com/subscriber for more.